Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to do another ranking video about a band nobody ever talks about, let alone remembers. And it's one of my favorite bands from Canada. Maybe my second favorite, Sorry Triumph, is the band Harem Scarem. They formed in the late 80s in Toronto. Harry Hess and Pete Lesperance formed, and then later added Darren Smith, the singer of Red Dragon Cartel, currently with Jakey Lee's band, and he also tours with Harem Scarem. And they also had a bass player named Mike Gione, who left in the mid-90s after their third album, I think. Basically, they arrived too late on the scene, and the political and music climate changed. They reminded me of Laserdiscs, like I made that video, where they came out, it seemed like they were going to be a huge idea. Nobody caught on to it, and they moved on to VHS instead, and they still kept going with that. That's kind of like how Harem Scarem is. They're a hard rock, AOR, melodic rock band that during a few times in their career, they changed their sound. They signed a 7-album deal with Warner Music Canada, and then later signed to Frontiers, the best 80s rock label out there now. Everybody's now basically on Frontiers. So, during the 90s, they changed their sound up a little bit, and then in the late 90s, they came up with a group called Rubber. It was the same band, but different name, and they tried this power pop 90s crappy bullshit that didn't work with their fan base, so they reverted back to the Harem Scarem moniker, and this box set I have does not include those, and the band probably doesn't even they hardly ever play anything live from those albums anyway, so I'm not going to count them. So there's a total of 15 if you count those two, but I don't because it was under a different name. And actually it was released, they were released as Harem Scarem albums, I think, in Japan maybe, and a few other places, but it was a different band. So I'm going to count 13 of them. So let's get started. Now, one of the albums that they changed their sound up a lot in the mid-2000s because they got tired of doing the same type of album over and over again. And if you listen to Harem Scarem, you would know all their albums are pretty similar. And it's not a bad thing, but they're hard to distinguish which is the better album. So it's hard. The bottom part of this list is hard to really get a good ranking. But I'm going to start with the one from, what year is it? It doesn't say. I think it was like 2004, 2005. That's Overload. This album is power poppy hard rock, modern rock sound. It's definitely not their. I mean, you can tell it's Harem Scarem, but it's not. It's like a mix of modern plus the old sound. And it's not that great of an album. Dagger is the song they play live in concert. It's a great song. That's probably one of my favorites. Don't Come Easy. They play that sometimes. Forgive and Forget, I would say those are the 3 best songs on the album. So that's last with Overload. Coming in at 12, I'm going to go with their retirement album, Hope. This came out in 2008. And they were just going to call it quits after this. And they eventually came back 6 years later in 2014 when I saw them in England for Firefest. This album, it goes back to the more AOR melodic hard rock sound, but nothing really like sticks out at me that much except Time Bomb, Days Are Numbered, and Shooting Star, I would say, are the top 3 songs on this album. It's not bad, but nothing memorable, so that's Hope. And next at number 11, Big Bang Theory. This is the one, their first record where they first started to change their sound to like a pop, 90s pop alternative rock sound, but still maintain their classic AOR hard rock sound. It's actually not bad. So Blind, they still play that in their concert. That's probably the best song on the album. New Religion's really good. Let's see. Climb the Gate is pretty good. Is probably pretty good. I'd say it's a standout. And Turn Around, they've played that a couple times. Overall, it's not a great record, but it's better than the last two I reviewed because you can still hear the old classic sound. So that's Big Bang Theory. Coming in at 10, I'm going to go with the new album that just came out a couple of months ago, Changed the World. Of the three newer albums that just came out of the last few years, this is by far the weakest one, I think. They're hard to rank because they're all similar. Like I said, every Harem Scarem album is, you know what you're going to get, so they're all about the same. But this is probably my least favorite of the three that came out recently. So, but yeah, the three songs that they released are by far the best. The title track, Aftershock, which is the video, you can see on YouTube, and the other video, The Death of Me. I think the other one I would put as the other standout is In the Unknown. It's a pretty good song. This album says it's just basically Pete Lesperance doing the guitar and bass, but they hired a new bass player after this. And it says Darren Smith didn't play drums. It was the other guy that was in the band. I forget his name now. Creighton Doan. The thing with Harem Scarem is they had Darren Smith and Creighton Doan. One would play on the album, one would tour with them, or vice versa. I mean, sometimes it would be the same, but a lot of times it changed because, like I said, Darren Smith was doing stuff with Red Dragon Cartel, but Creighton Doan apparently, according to this album, played the drums on the studio version. But in the touring, I saw them. It was with Darren Smith, and in the videos they made, Darren Smith was the drummer. So take it for what it's worth. They also had a bass player in the mid '90s to up to recently, up till I think Hope by Barry Donahue, but he's never came back in the band. And for a brief time they had a bass player named Stan Mischek, if I think that's how you say it, and he's no longer in the band either. So coming in 9 is going to be the one previous to this, and that's United. This is actually a really good album. The title track's one of my favorites. Here Today, Gone Tomorrow was the video released for it. Great guitar solo. Pete Lesperance is one of the most underrated guitar players ever. Sinking Ship was another video they released for this album. Another good song. Heaven and Earth is good, but probably the standout track that is the last one, Indestructible. It's just very good. It's like a slow brooding ballad that kicks in, and it's just a great chorus. So I would highly recommend this one. Coming in 8, I'm going to go with Higher. I think it was in early 2000s. I want to say 2003. The title track is one of my favorite Harem Scarem songs. It's just really good. Wishing is another great song. Waited, another highlight. Run and Hide and Lucky Ones are also good. Overall, this is a solid album. And this was actually released by Frontiers on vinyl. I got it right here. Now, I think they only made 50. They released this, Way of the World, 13, and United. I only have this one and Weight of the World. There are only like 50 total of each one. But yeah, so I believe this is a gold vinyl. Yeah, gold. So yeah. Coming in next, which is a very interesting story with this album. It's their, I think, 5th album, Believe, Karma Cleansing. Actually, no, the 4th album. But it has 2 different titles because they were big in Japan at this time. It came out in '97. This is actually the Believe cover. I have it downstairs, but I forgot to bring it up. The reason why they changed the name from Karma Cleansing to Believe, and there's 2 different versions. Harry Hess said since they were big in Japan, they wanted a simpler title so the Japanese could understand and, the best they can to read the title name. And Karma Cleansing he thought would be too complicated. But I prefer the Karma Cleansing cover. But the CD I have, I got the Japanese version just because it's different. And I think it's basically the same track listing, but I think it's changed because the Japanese version changed a little bit. and there might be one song that was different too. But this is a really good album. One of their better ones. Die Off Hard is the video you can find on YouTube. I think that was their last video until they came back recently. Staying Away was also on their Early Years album. Great song. Rain, which much like the Bitter Pill by Warrant, there's a acoustic version and the studio version, like a regular version. And the video they released was the acoustic version, just like the Bitter Pill. I prefer the electric version, but that's just me. Karmic Cleansing is one of their hardest hitting songs. It's really good. One of my favorite tracks by them. So yeah, I would definitely check it out. Believe. Karmic Cleansing. Coming in at 6 is their newest release of their comeback, or their first release of their comeback, 13. This album, much like usual, their first comeback album is usually the best. It has a lot of great guitar licks on it. The intro to Garden of Eden, great song. Early Warning Signs. The Midnight Hours, probably my favorite off the album. Saints and Sinners, Troubled Times. And to closing out, Stardust. No, not Cody Rhodes, but Stardust. It's a great song. I highly recommend you check it out. If you can, see if they still have it on vinyl. But yeah, Amazon has it also. They probably even have it on vinyl, but I got the vinyls I did get from Harem Scarem. I got them off of Frontiers. So, okay, coming in at 5. This is the original release in 2006, Human Nature. This was their next to last album before their farewell tour. And it's just so, it harkens back to their old days. It's pure AOR. It's really solid. There's not really a bad song on it. The title track is probably the standout. Caught Up in Your World is a great song. Starlight, Going Under. Tomorrow May Be Gone, the closing track's really good. Yeah, the Human Nature, I highly recommend it. Number 5. Here's the one that came with the box set. Number 4, I also have the CD here. I'll show you the CD. The re-release by Wounded Bird Records is their most alternative title, but it's really good, and that is Voice of Reason. It reminds me of the Blue Lagoon because you got the geothermal hot spring and the power plant, which I've been to. It's amazing. But a little hint, you have to pre-order your tickets in advance because they won't let you in if you don't do that. But yeah, it's like the most famous hot tub in the world, but it's natural. I love it. They also have saunas and everything there. A bar right in the middle of the area of the spring. They have a bar. You can order your drinks. It's really cool. But yeah, Voice of Reason. This is more a grungy hard rock album. The title track's awesome. Blue is the video they released. It's not the best song on the album. Warming a Frozen Rose, really good alternative ballad. Candle, probably my favorite song off the album. There's an acoustic version as a bonus track. Necessary Evil's really good to close it out. And The Paint Thins, maybe their hardest song they've ever done. Breathing Sand, it's a great album. Probably one of my favorite releases of this era because grunge was shitty and this was still really good. It reminds me of sort of like also another Warrant reference. It reminds me of the same year Ultraphobic, which was a great record too. Even though it was updated a little bit, it was still the Warrant sound. This was the same thing here with Harem Scarem. So that was 4. Now 3 is their strongest debut or their strongest album after 2000. And that's Weight of the World. After they got done with that rubber shit, they came back with a bang with this album. And it's pure late 80s, early 90s AOR, hard rock, perfect sound, their main sound. And the title track is one of my favorite songs they've ever done. Killing Me is a great song they play live. Outside Your Window is really good. This Ain't Over is a great ballad. You Ruined Everything is good. Seesaw, much like Mandy on Mood Swings is a short minute and a half interval or instrumental. It's really good. I think Mandy's better, but this one's not bad. And Voice Inside is really good. And End of Time, which is also on the early years one I was talking about, a great closer. So I would highly recommend that album, and I also have it on vinyl. So yeah, I would highly recommend checking this album out. If you like hard melodic rock, this is one of the best albums ever. So coming in at 2, this was a toss-up. I love both. I had to think about it for a minute, but I think I'm going to go with their debut. This is the one that came with the box set, and this is the original CD from 1991. This was their most popular album in terms of the 2 hits they had in Canada. Slowly Slipping Away was their top 30 hit in Canada, and Honestly, which is probably their most famous song, ballad. No, it's not a Striper cover, but it's in a similar vein. Ironically, Judge Reinhold, speaking of forgotten, he was in the video. He starred in the video. So, but yeah, overall, this is probably their most recognizable album in terms of songs, because you have Hard to Love, Distant Memory, With a Little Love, Honestly, Love Reaction, Slowly Slipping Away, How Long. It's just a great album. The only blemish I would say is Something to Say, because it's a really boring acoustic ballad that just doesn't do anything, and it ends the album. They should have ended it with something more rocking, but it's just a minor gripe. So that's number 2. And 1 is, of course, Mood Swings. Got the original right here. And this is, I think, when they really hit their peak, because it was 1993. Of course, it didn't catch on because grunge had already taken over. But it's a mix of AOR, but more hard rock. And that's my favorite type of music, hard rock. So it fits perfectly for me, because Saviors Never Cry is the opener. It just beats you in your face. No Justice, which is probably their second most famous song, which is true today. Just look at the world. There's no justice. There's no just. Even what's going on right now, there's no justice. It's just perfect song for today. Stranger Than Love, good ballad. Change Comes Around, great instrumental work in that song. Sentimental Boulevard is the one that, it's not bad either. It's the one that Darren Smith sings, and they still do it in concert. But I still don't know why Jake E. Lee picked him as the vocalist of his band. He's not a good singer. He's a great drummer, but not a good singer. Empty Promises, Mandy, as I talked about. Maybe my favorite ballad by them, If There Was a Time. It's basically talking about if there was a time to need redemption and a time to change your life and hope is lost, it would be right now, basically, is what they're talking about. And Had Enough is another great song. So overall, this is my favorite. It's their sophomore album, Mood Swings, Harem Scarem. And here I have also Mood Swings 2. They redid it, sort of like Twisted Sister redid Stay Hungry into Still Hungry. And it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. I mean, I don't prefer it to the original, but they did a pretty damn good job of covering these. And they have 3 new songs on it, which I would say World Gone to Pieces is a pretty damn solid song, my favorite one. But I got this on when I saw them on tour in Firefest in 2014. So that's going to wrap up the video. I hope you check them out, because they really deserve recognition. They're a great band. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And I'll have a link to the Rat and Kicks album reviews I did before, if you want to check those out. So thanks for watching. Rock on.